Friday, August 2. From the book The Desire of Ages, page 363, we read, "In all who are under the training of God is to be revealed a life that is not in harmony with the world, its customs, or its practices, and everyone needs to have a personal experience in obtaining a knowledge of the will of God. We must individually hear him speaking to the heart. When every other voice is hushed, and in quietness we wait before him, the silence of the soul makes more distinct the voice of God. He bids us, 'Be still and know that I am God,' Psalm 46, verse 10. Here alone can true rest be found, and this is the effectual preparation for all who labour for God. Amid the hurrying throng and the strain of life's intense activities, the soul that is thus refreshed will be surrounded with an atmosphere of light and peace. The life will breathe out fragrance and will reveal a divine power that will reach men's hearts." End of quote. And then from the same book, page 385. "Their dissatisfied hearts queried why, if Jesus could perform so many wondrous works as they had witnessed, could he not give health, strength, and riches to all his people, free them from their oppressors, and exalt them to power and honour? The fact that he claimed to be the Son of God and yet refused to be Israel's king was a mystery which they could not fathom. His refusal was misinterpreted. Many concluded that he dared not assert his claims because he himself doubted as to the divine character of his mission. Thus, they opened their hearts to unbelief, and the seed which Satan had sown bore fruit of its kind in misunderstanding and defection." End of quote. And that brings us to our 4 discussion questions for this week. 1. How would you respond if someone asked you, "What has Jesus freed you from?" 2. Discuss why it is that God sometimes allows a good person, such as John the Baptist, to be in prison and to be executed. What solace or hope can we find despite these difficult things? 3. What lessons are there in the feeding of the 5,000 for a church congregation with few resources? And 4. Compare the popular views of Jesus today with the picture of him in Mark chapter 5 and chapter 6. That is, what about those who use Jesus to seek political power and to dominate others? And now it's time for Inside Story with Sibylla Harrold. Thank you, Sibylla.
Unexpected Change of Heart by Andrew McChesney. As a university student, Anush heard many times, "When you graduate, we will give you a job." But when she graduated, no one offered her a job. Father was deeply worried. In Armenia, fathers often help their children get jobs. Some fathers even bribe companies to hire their children. But father didn't give a bribe, and Anush was jobless in her town in Armenia. Then she learned about an interdenominational missionary organization from the United States that was looking for an Armenian translator. The job came with a small salary and required her to relocate temporarily to a nearby city, Vanadzor. She asked father for permission to work as a translator. Armenian is a largely patriarchal society where fathers are consulted on many decisions. Father thought that working with Americans would be a good opportunity for Anush. "Yes, you can go," he said. Anush got the job. She was happy. 4 years earlier, father had forbidden her from going to church and getting baptized. Now she was reading the Bible, sharing Jesus with others, and getting paid for it. As she worked, a desire grew in her heart to become a missionary. When the job ended, she returned home, wondering how she could fulfill her dream. After praying and fasting for 3 days, she read in Exodus that God told Moses at the burning bush to ask Pharaoh to let his people go to serve him. She felt as though God was saying to her, "Go ask Father to let you serve me." She went to Father. Would you allow me to study to become a missionary in another country? She asked. No, he said. The next morning, Anush read in Exodus that Pharaoh rejected Moses' request, but God sent Moses back, saying, "Go talk to Pharaoh." She went to Father. "Would you allow me to study in a missionary program to serve God?" she asked. "No," he said. She continued reading Exodus. Again and again, God sent Moses to talk to Pharaoh. Every time Moses talked to Pharaoh, Anush spoke to her father. Father became upset, and one day he exploded. "Can you just go to the local church and get baptized and forget about becoming a missionary in another country?" he explained. Anush was confused. She hadn't anticipated such a response. She decided to go to church. She went to a nearby city where an Adventist church was holding evangelistic meetings. When the preacher asked who wanted to be baptized, she stood up. "Are you sure?" the preacher asked. "What about your father?" Everyone knew her story. "Father is fine with my decision," Anush said. Father didn't stop the baptism. With joy, Anush plunged under the water.
This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful.